Okay, a few seconds before we start, but I believe we're live right now. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us live virtually in our Heart and Hustle studio. We're live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. From my house right now, and so I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you so much for tuning in. I hope all of you are staying healthy and safe. Before we begin, I like to open our virtual live chat with a land acknowledgement. So with that, I'm just going to open really quick with our land acknowledgement. To the original people of this land, the Nisenan people, the Southern Maidu, Valley and Plains Miwok, the Putwin and Wintu peoples, and the people of the Wilton Rancheria, Sacramento's only federally recognized tribe. May we acknowledge and honor the Native people who came before us and still walk beside us today on these ancestral lands by choosing to gather today in the active practice of acknowledgement and appreciation for Sacramento's Indigenous peoples, history, contributions, and lives. Thank you so much again, everyone, for joining us for our monthly live chat. Today is Monday, February 28th, and we are still in the month of February. And as we close out Black History Month, it was really important for our team to really take this moment and to do our monthly live chat as holding space to really center and uplift some of our amazing local leaders right here in South Sacramento that's doing everything they can to uplift the health and wellness of our Black community. This year's theme for National Black History Month is Black health and wellness. And as the global pandemic enters its third year, this year's focus is really on the health and wellness of our African American community, really honoring our past, celebrating their achievements, and really discussing the progress and challenges that we have ahead. I'm super excited. I think many of y'all know the folks that are on the panel right now. I'm really excited to have our esteemed panelists join us today, folks who have been working in our communities for a really long time, to share about the great work they've been doing and how all of us can actually work together to continue to uplift, address the health disparities in our Black community, not just this month, right, celebrating Black History Month this month, but every month and every day of the year. So with that, I'm just going to jump right in and have our guests introduce themselves. We have Miss Jackie Rose. I was going to read your title, but I'm going to have them introduce themselves. Principal Reggie Brown and Dr. Brittney Gandy. And so what we'll do is I'll ask you all questions. We'll keep this kind of just natural and flowing. But my first question is, this year's theme for National Black History Month is about health and wellness. So my question to all three of you is, what does health and wellness look like for you in the Black community? And if you can answer this question by first sharing a little bit about your work in the community, your role, and what does health and wellness look like for you? So with that, let me start with Miss Jackie.
Thank you, Councilmember Vang, and I'm really happy to be here today. My name is Jackie Rose, and I'm the CEO of Rose Family Creative Empowerment Center. Our agency also is the lead agency for the Black Child Legacy campaign here in Meadowview that we're really proud of, as well as a lead agency for a trauma-informed wellness grant for African American residents here in South Sacramento, where we deal solely with trauma-informed around African American trauma. So we're excited about that. And so wellness to me is making sure that our African American families are lifted up. Oftentimes I've talked to folks over the years, just like in education, we talk about how when African American children do well, all children do well. And I truly believe that is also can be woven through health as well. That when African American children are healthy, all children are healthy, because we don't leave anybody behind. But the Black Child Legacy campaign is one of those campaigns that focuses solely on children through 4 focus areas, which is prenatal conditions. We're taking them from birth, infant safe sleep, making sure that we're wrapping around them with making sure that the child abuse and neglect is not there, as well as third-party homicides, and making sure that our children are safe in the community and have things to do. So that's some of the things that, and of course, trauma informed. We got involved with trauma informed during this pandemic around African American trauma, and our particular efforts is dealing with trauma through the arts. We know that our families love the arts. They are attached to the arts. It's in their DNA. And so we used our opportunity to actually address trauma informed through the arts, from the head of the household all the way down to the younger folks. So we're excited about those types of opportunities here in the African American community.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Miss Jackie. And thank you so much for also mentioning the Black Child Legacy campaign as well. My team will be putting up that link if folks want to learn more about this incredible initiative. Thank you so much, team. It's already up. If you want to learn more about the Black Child Legacy campaign, you can visit www.blackchildlegacy.org to learn more. Ms. Jackie has been leading the MetaView incubator in particular, because it's throughout the Sacramento region, but her and her staff have been doing incredible work on the ground to really uplift our African-American communities and really addressing the infant mortality among the African-American community. So thank you, Ms. Jackie, just for your leadership and your heart and hustle and everything that you're doing. Mr. Brown, principal of John Still. What about you? Introduce yourself. I kind of gave a little intro already, but introduce yourself, the work that you've been doing, and what does health and wellness mean to you?
Yeah, well, for me, I've been fortunate enough to be the principal here at the last 9 years at John Still. And I could say more than anything else, it has helped me gain a greater understanding of health and wellness when we start looking at the whole child. When you're in the credential program, getting your admin credential, you're really focused on, student achievement. And, at the time when I went through it, 16 years ago, we didn't really focus on whole child and health and wellness. And it has really changed my point of view from the aspect of what I need to do as a principal. It was eye-opening because I came to a school which was already housed with a social worker, healthy start coordinator, and I was kind of going, wow, it's a lot, not recognizing, the need. And it only took me 2 days to figure out we need more. And I was very vocal in advocating for additional services, which led me to the Rose family, because as they're my after-school provider, they help me, be able to provide greater services for our families, not just the families of John Still, but the families of MetaView. And we've tried some different things because we've lobbied and communicated to CERNA that we had a virtual doctor called HippoMD, which was, it was groundbreaking, and it worked great because we started out finding out information, eye-opening information, not just for me, what I share with my other principals, that, we have kids that are not, after birth, they're not seeing the doctor regularly. And a lot of things that, that were not in the forefront, I really pushed it on our side to make sure we have screenings. And Rose family, like this weekend, we had, dental and health screenings. These things are very, very important. When you say you're going to educate the whole child, if their health and wellness is not taken care of, that's just that's really a barrier for success. And for me also, my mom was a nurse, and getting an understanding of that and having that in my first, as a child, I wanted to be a doctor. and that because I wanted to work with my mom, and I knew all the work she did. And it's something for me as a site leader is to help our children understand what that looks like, and just try to connect them with services. But like I said, these 9 years have been, transforming for me as a leader. And like I said, I think it's one of the things that we have to continue to look at and be open to try different things.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Brown. And I know we're going to be talking a little bit about how we're supporting our African American youth. I just want to give a shout out to you for your leadership over 9 years. If folks are watching, actually today is Mr. Brown's last day at John Still. He's not going too far though. He's going to be heading over to which school, Mr. Brown?
I'll be at John F. Kennedy,
Yep.
which 90% of the students will transition over to Kennedy, and so I still will be an active person in the Meadowview community because I love this community.
Yeah, no, and Mr. Brown, thank you so much just for your leadership. When we think about educating our students, it does go outside beyond the classroom walls. It's about meeting the basic needs of our students, their health, making sure there's food, that they have clothes, all of the basics in order for them to truly thrive. It's more than just the education component, which is like the teaching, right? But the curriculum, but it's also about the wellness and their health. And so I just want to thank you for your leadership over the years. You're not going too far anyways. We know where you're going. So thank you so much, Mr. Brown. Dr. Brittney Gandy, please introduce yourself and share with us, what does health and wellness look like for you?
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Brittney Gandy. I'm a program administrator at South Sacramento Christian Center, and I'm also the CEO of an organization called Emerge a Better You, Emerge Abbey. And so with South Sacramento Christian Center, we are the lead CIL for the Black Child Legacy campaign for the Valley High area. So we get a chance to work with Miss Jackie. It's an honor to work with her and her organization. They do amazing work there. We're truly just honored to continue to collaborate on so many projects, whether it be vaccine equity with this coalition or with Black Child Legacy campaign. It's important to realize that as you work on improving the community, a lot of the leaders and organizations come together, and that's what it takes. Just like they say, it takes a village to raise a child. It's not just a cliche, it really is true. So I've been in the public health arena for approximately 15 years. I've been a public health educator, public health specialist. I love learning, and so for me, I come from the angle of always working to educate the youth. So with Southside Christian Center, we work on healthcare campaigns. We're part of the SAVE Coalition with your office, Councilwoman Vang. We run testing and vaccination clinics on a weekly basis. Now we're going to just kind of transition over to vaccine clinics. And we host a lot of dental and wellness checks through other organizations. We'll allow them to collaborate with us, come on board, come to the parking lot. And so everyone just really kind of bands together. But for me, health and wellness, it's a total picture. It's like a puzzle. There's the mental health piece. There's the physical health piece. There's the dental health piece. There's how is your family doing? What's going on in your life? How are your emotions? Do you feel well? How do you feel about yourself? It's really a totality in terms of children and really everyone. So when we're dealing with the Black community, I really focus on the youth. I would say youth up through college age, but then also help those in the community who are in the elderly or anyone that's mainly underserved. So through these health fairs and these things that we hold, we really like to see a lot of the organizations come together to collaborate. I've always had a passion for health. As the principal said, when I was young, I always wanted to become a doctor. I became a doctor, but I became a PhD.
You know what? Own it, Dr. Brittney Gandy. Own it. PhD. You are a doctor. That's awesome.
You are.
Thank you. I became a PhD. I got to this kind of fork in the road. So in college, I loved biology, loved math, majored in that. My undergrad degrees are in that. Did the master's in public health. Was really on that track. And I fell in love with research and community. And I realized that there are plenty of those who have the gift who can heal and work in the hospital and do those things. But I realized that I loved that impact of working with community and seeing someone change their lives in a number of different ways. And so as a physician, it's amazing. You help the patient, you have your patients, you help them with their health, and then they're essentially out of the way. And we need that. But I realized that I truly enjoy being able to help people kind of from A to Z. I like to be able to stay in their life, whether it be through counseling, through services that they needed, through helping them and their children, or helping children get services that they needed, and to really follow along in their story through this success story. So for me, health and wellness means being healthy and whole on so many different levels and areas. So I fell in love with policy and pursued that, and it's just been a blessing ever since. And I just truly love the work that I do. And I'm honored because it's not a one-person job by any means. With all these, millions and billions of people on the world, we need everyone to put their best foot forward. So I'm just honored to be a part of it. But health and wellness looks like health equity. It looks like health equality. It looks like putting all hands on deck and moving forward. It looks like listening to the needs of those who are in need. And it looks like really answering and taking action to make those steps so that we can continue to allow Sacramento and really the world to be a better place for everyone. So that's what it looks like for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Gandy, for really talking about the holistic approach. I think a theme that we're hearing really definitely, I think all of y'all are very youth focused, so that's awesome. But really talking about us, when we talk about health and wellness, is really about really the cradle all the way to being an adult and a senior, right? That's really important when we talk about health. Dr. Gandy, I know you mentioned a little bit about just the pandemic, and I know Ms. Jackie, y'all been doing a lot of vaccination over there at your office as well. We are entering the third year of this pandemic, and I think we've seen health disparities really increase across all of our communities, but in particularly the African-American community. This question is actually for all three of you. As educators, practitioners, and leaders, what are some of the key factors that you've seen on the ground that has affected the health and wellness of our Black youth and families right here in South Sacramento? And what have y'all done? Maybe just some solutions that you have provided or services to begin to address some of that. Let me start with Mr. Brown.
Well, for me, the proximity thing was something I did not realize when I started talking to parents, trying to connect them with services, and realizing they have to go across town, and sometimes it's really hard to get the RT. It's tough because when you don't have available services, the vast of all the different services available in your neighborhood, it's extremely hard. And I think that was one of the things that was eye-opening to me because I grew up in a community. I grew up in Rancho Cordova, and there was a lot of different services in Rancho Cordova for everyone. But it seems that there's some voids of services for the people of Meadowview. So it's really concerning to me.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Ms. Jackie?
I think Councilmember, as Dr. Gandy and Mr. Brown both mentioned, is the equity issue. And the issue of equity in our community actually having available services and things that they actually could access and get to. I think when this pandemic hit 2 years ago, I think there was a panic with them. I think that they basically didn't know where to go and what to do. Agencies like mine and Pastor Les over at South Sac Christian Center kind of filled in a lot of gaps, and it wasn't just around getting the vaccination. It was around food insecurities. It was around any mental, social, and emotional well-being. It was around distant learning. Our community did not have the means to even get on the internet. A lot of them didn't have the internet in their homes. So when we talk about equity, our community was hit hard because of some of those things, and they didn't have. And luckily enough for us, we were a stable force in the community that had built relationships with a lot of folks that needed us at the time that they needed us, and because of that, we were the trusted messengers in these communities that actually that they relied on. We didn't take a break during this pandemic. We were here in the office taking those calls, making sure that we were meeting those folks where they were. But those relationships that we had with the after-school parents or just the community at large were very important to making sure that we could connect them to the things that they actually needed at the time. So during this pandemic, there were so many, it really brought to light all of the inequities that were happening in our community.
Ms. Jackie, the one thing you and I had the conversation, we say one pandemic, there's multiple pandemics going on.
That's correct.
And some of these pandemics were already in effect at some stage or another prior to COVID, just heightened by COVID.
That is true.
Yeah, I think absolutely, Miss Jackie. I think we all know too well how the pandemic disproportionately impacted our low-income families and residents. But what Mr. Brown said, that we were having multiple crises even before the pandemic, and it really just revealed our vulnerabilities as a society in terms of the gaps and what we haven't been doing in terms of the system to really already meet the needs of our families. Really grateful to you and to all of the organizations on the ground. I know who are our trusted messengers. They don't trust government, and rightfully so. There's lots of reasons why they don't, right? And leaning in on organizations like yourselves that you're leading on the ground to make sure that our families get the resources. I remember South Sac Christian Center being on the front lines doing food distribution, and they still do. Like all of these items during the pandemic, like the Wi-Fi, the food, I would argue that stuff is still even needed now more than ever, right? It's not just a one-time investment, but it's about building that infrastructure to make sure that we reach our hardest to reach community, and that is our African American community, who's often been left behind. Dr. Gandy?
Yeah, I would agree with everything that everyone has stated here already. South Sacramento Christian Center, we do every Saturday still do our food distribution. People are facing food insecurities, even now, even more than ever, because of inflation and the prices going up and just the uncertainties. And I know a lot of places are hiring, but the hours may not be desirable based on the school schedules. So there's really this there creates this barrier of distrust, if you will, because maybe the accommodations are not able to be made, or there are certain requirements that people of color may not yet obtain, or yet may not have, that they're in the works to obtaining them, but they may not have, but they need those accommodations and those services right now. So what do you do when you're in a situation where you need a job right now, but you don't have the accommodations to allow for that job, or you don't have childcare, or there's a wait list because so many people need those services. So it takes so many of us to come together and to move forward to help everyone that's in need. We've done the food distribution every Saturday. We also send out COVID boxes that have specific foods to help people with their health and wellness to endure and get over the illness. And so just really some of those special touches that are needed and details that are needed for people. We also help serve those who are dealing with homelessness and just people in the community to really, as each of you have said, there's so many pandemics that are really going on right now, and it's just getting worse and worse. It's really heartbreaking to see and watch unfold with us here in Sacramento, with our nation, and just with our world. We really have to continue. I applaud everyone as we have this attitude to band together, to work together, to move forward together, so that we can all survive, and especially our youth. So I just agree with what everyone has said here. We just continue to move forward. We know about the historic health disparities. We know about the historic reasons for trust being broken. And that's understandable because those things are deeply rooted. Those things really didn't happen that long ago. And so it kind of, sometimes when it's written in the history books and people kind of read it, we may think, oh, that was back in the day. But when you look at things that may have happened, 40, 60 years ago, it's really not that long ago. My parents are in their 60s, so it's not that long ago when something like this happened. I just turned 40, and I'm proud to say it, but there are things that just didn't happen that long ago. So things kind of just got better. So to see a few things go backwards, you can still understand why there may be a level of distrust. So it's really a matter of education, breaking down those barriers, providing a level of safety, providing a level of comfort where people can know that they're safe, and being a trusted resource for the community. And I would say that's the biggest thing is trust.
Yeah. Now, Dr. Gandy, you touched on some really good points. It is, as we're talking about, Black health and wellness, a big part of this is really talking about Black history, right? And we can't discuss health and wellness without actually discussing Black history, really decades of struggle, triumphs, contributions, and I would even say moments of joy that we need to celebrate as well. I think a question that I have for all of you is, as folks who are watching and tuning in right now, what is one thing that you would like to share about Black history as it relates to health and wellness in the community? What is one thing that that you'd like to share? Dr. Gandy, you shared a little bit about just your parents, the mistrust that it wasn't too long ago, right? But like to also hold space if there's anything that you would like to share in particular, as we're talking about health and wellness, but also really talking about Black history as well.
Yeah, so even though I do, and they're proud because they're, every day is a blessing, as we know. Even though they explain things that happened in their childhood, for them, they were actually some of the first that I knew that got the vaccine, because they were in their age group and they felt like, you know what, we trust, even though what happened in the past did happen, we're listening to the science. They've always been supportive. They've always been supportive of me going into scientific fields. And so for them, I was actually very proud, and to see them just, jump on board and be on board, my entire family, honestly. But one thing that I am proud of is to say, and we see this now in a few commercials, is to say that Black history is American history. Black history is a part. I mean, it's not just Black history. I personally, in schools, I wish that it would get to the point where it wasn't segregated as just 1 month for Black history, but just history in general. So if 1 month you're studying physicians, study all the great physicians, whether they're Black, white, Asian, Mexican, whatever. Then study all the physicians and not segregate who was Black, who was not. And then another month, if you're talking about the great inventors of things, then study those. But to separate it for just 1 month, honestly, we are woven into the culture of American history. And so, yes, it's great and it feels good to have an honor of a month. There's so much, it's a wealth of knowledge that's still yet to be learned and discovered and talked about. I wouldn't say it needs to be taken away, but I do think it's important to help our nation understand that it's not just Black history, it's a part of American history, because many things that we've invented and come up with and developed help everyone in our everyday lives. So I'm proud of the inventions that we've made and that we've the programs we've developed, the services we've developed, how we're able to endure, how we're able to teach others to make the best of circumstances and survive and make it better, and to move forward and to strive and not live in a life where you're bitter, but to still wake up every day and continue to be your best self. I'm proud of that. I would say I'm very proud of that for Black history.
Thanks, Dr. Gandy. Miss Jackie?
Yes, as Dr. Gandy just mentioned, Black history is American history. And it's not just our history that we're talking about. And it brings to mind to me, we were just, I was just at John Steele a week ago with our girls group. And we were talking about Henrietta Lacks, a person in Black history that everybody should know about, because her cells is what is helping us with COVID-19. Her cells is what's helping us with cancer. Her cells are what is put into modern medicine today. That is, and the girls couldn't believe that this was actually happening. They didn't know anything about Henrietta Lacks. So we wanted to bring someone up that was part of history that they didn't know anything about, and that and a lot of them, when we finished, they were like, Miss Jackie, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a scientist. I want to do this. I want to do that, just because we introduced them to Henrietta Lacks and her story, and the disparities that are out there, that in her day, she was 36 years old when she died, and they're still using her cells. I'm sitting here looking at the fact that her cells doubled 20 to 24 hours. They kept doubling. They're using her cells today in all of this modern medicine. And so that's history. And they're not just using those cells for Black people. They're using those cells for all people. And so when I said that to the girls got really excited. So, when we trickle this information down to our young people who are going to be the future leaders, they need to have this information. And it doesn't just need to, in that group that I have at John Steele, it's not just Black girls. There are Hmong girls in there. There are Hispanic girls in there. So every last one of them were excited to hear about this lady and the great things that she had contributed to society. So when we talk about, our history and what it means, we have contributed a lot to this history, and it is American history. and I'm really proud of it.
Thank you so much, Miss Jackie. And thank you, Team Heart and Hustle, for putting up that website. Can you put it up one more time if you can? Thank you so much. If you want to learn more about Henrietta Lacks's story, you can actually go to this website at hopkinsmedicine.org/Henrietta Lacks to learn a little bit more. So thank you so much, Miss Jackie, for sharing that. Mr. Brown, what about you? What is one thing that you like to share with the audience today about Black history?
Yeah, for me, everything that was said is very, very much true about, it's American history. And for me being, I'm 56 years old and I'm still learning stuff about Black history. And my parents are very, very, they did a really good job of helping educate my brothers, my siblings, and myself about that. But I grew up in an area that was founded by African American gentlemen. And I didn't find that out until I was in college. And we're like shocked. Why didn't they tell, those kind of things. But the key concept is that, that when kids are engaged that, hey, there's someone that looks like me in history, it helps them really embrace history. And one of my strategies, you're going to laugh when I tell you this one, is that, I, wholeheartedly when I was in college, developing units in African American history, and I still use some of the stuff that I developed when I was at Sac State. Well, one of the things I do is that we also celebrate Women's History Month, and to make a big deal of it, because as a principal, with most of my teachers being women, I go, if you can't understand the importance of women in history, then you understand what I'm talking about. When we focus on African Americans, Latinos, Asians, the importance of embracing different from our textbooks. Some of our textbooks, they're getting better, but in the past, when I was in school, there was not very few references of African American achievement. And it's changing, but we've only scraped the tip of some of the information that's out there. We're all learning things every year.
Absolutely. And I know at Sac City Unified School District, we're making ethnic studies a requirement, but definitely it needs to start not just in high school, it needs to start in elementary, right? And Ms. Jackie, I know all the work that your staff is doing in terms of just education outside of the classroom, after school program, really sharing, I would say, our history, right? Black history is our history. And so it's got to also start, in the elementary classes, not just high school. I would say it's great, but that might be still a little too late. Never too late though, but we definitely want to make sure that we're sharing all of our contributions and triumph. And when I say all of ours, meaning that includes African American history. So thank you so much. I just got a quick question. Let me see. I had one more question. Actually, I had two more questions. All three of you have mentioned a lot, and I also know you all work with youth. I think one of the remaining kind of taboos in many of our underserved community is really the stigma around mental health. I'd like to ask all three of you, because I know y'all have been on the ground working with our young people and our families in particular. And wanted to ask you, what are the challenges and opportunities that you've seen that we need to overcome to meet the mental health needs of our youth and families? Because I think oftentimes when we talk about health and wellness, folks always think about the physical health, right? Although the mental piece contributes just as equally to our physical health as well. Right. And really wanted to ask all three of you just, what challenges and even I would say even opportunities that you've seen that we need to overcome in order to address the mental health needs of our African American youth and families. And I'll start with Dr. Gandy.
So thank you for bringing this up. It's truly a passion of mine. I founded Emerge Abbey because of back in 2016, I saw the need for mental health coming. And some of us have that intuition. Some people call it that unction. Some people call it that gut feeling. Some people say it's the Holy Spirit. For me, I know it's like, okay, Holy Spirit told me. So whatever that intuition is, whatever anyone out there personally calls it, when there's a calling on your life and when you're called to do something very, very specific. I feel like a lot of us have many callings, but when you have specific ones. And mental health just really, really rang and resonated with me as a need that was already there, but that would be coming more in the forefront. So I've been tutoring for approximately 22 years. So Emerge Abbey is not only a resource for those that are enduring a mental health crisis, it's also a tutoring place for virtual tutoring from youth all the way through college age students. So it's a tutoring business, but it's also a mental health and mentoring business to help people move forward. What I've seen in the beginning, because it started early on, was the need for more self-assurance, more abilities, more doorways, more access, those types of things. And as COVID came along and really flipped the entire world upside down, as none of us had ever seen anything like this, there was the need for to reduce the levels of fear and anxiety. The fear, the anxiety, the depression, the kind of what's going to happen next. And so now, as we've seen kind of the increases, unfortunately, in crime, suicide rates, people just kind of losing it, the bullying and the fighting in school, it's almost like everyone is under so much pressure that they don't have an outlet to really just be able to release this internal pressure. And so whatever their outlet is, that seems to be how they lash out. And I guess, the opportunity has been to continue to coach young people through these feelings and coach even adults. I have sessions and coaching sessions with adults, but to coach people through these feelings and also tutor them to help them refocus, kind of get over some of the anxiety and to move that aside and compartmentalize it so that they can focus back on their academics, or if it's an adult who's working a job, so that they can get back on their job. But I've seen that, I guess some of the difficulty has been because there's a constant unknown that's fed. And I won't even say fed, it's just happening. It's just the truth of what's happening. There's so much chaos happening right now. But to remember to be thankful for what is still yet to come, and to be thankful for the things we have. To be thankful for life, to be thankful to be able to make a change, to be thankful that we can get out there and help someone else who's going through a worse situation or a similar situation as what you're going through. So rather than feeling like you have to wait until your situation is over, to take the initiative to get out there and help somebody else. And I noticed that really helps people a lot more than people may anticipate, a lot more than people may realize. So giving them the resources, whatever it is that they connect with, find something they like, just like when you're teaching something to somebody young, you connect it with what they like. Find something that they like and put them in that really will help them blossom and flourish. And I've seen that really work. That's been a blessing to work with so many organizations, because it gives people a variety of things to be involved in. And that's really helped.
Thanks, Dr. Gandy. Mr. Brown, what about you? I know that you work with our students every day, really around the mental health piece. What have you seen at the forefront as principal at John Still? And, what are some of I want to say solutions, but I would say activities, programs that y'all are doing really to begin to address the mental health needs of our students?
For me, especially for the African American community, it's tough. It's a stigma. It takes kid hands, the communication. I know personally, with my own friends, people that I work with, family members, that there is a stigma associated in the African American community with mental health, and being willing to talk through it and help them and recognize that is something that we need to take care of, treat, and support, and and not isolate people. Mm-hmm. It's probably the biggest. It's, to me, continuing to be the biggest challenge, especially males. Mm-hmm. And it hits me close to me, because I just know so many people that struggle, and it takes them longer to get through things than it takes them longer to get the help they need. And for us, the forefront, having different services. Every now and then we get parents that are not comfortable with some of the services that we have, and we try our best to work through it. We're not trying to put a label on anyone. And, it's so needed, especially with so much stressors going on, with all these different things. There's so many things that, and just that's, for me, on the forefront. And I'm very cognitive and aware of the shortcomings we have in education, and also understand the struggle we have working, convincing our African American families, especially our males, to get the needed help.
Thanks, Mr. Brown. Miss Jackie, what about you? I know you've done a lot of work with our babies and our families around mental health. What are some of the challenges that you see, and what have y'all done to really begin to do that work?
Yeah, we basically have really had some challenges with this pandemic and the isolation that a lot of these families were in. And the fact of the matter is, if we had a relationship with them before the pandemic, again, I'll go back to being that trusted messenger. A trusted messenger can really talk them into doing something, or gearing them to the right places that something that our community has embraced. Mm-hmm. Okay, I will tell you that. What we do need to do is to find more culturally competent African American mental health providers. They need folks that look like them, that they can feel comfortable with, and then they will reach out and receive the services. They oftentimes will come to us and say, Miss Jackie, you referred me over here to so-and-so, but I didn't connect with that person. Okay. But if we can find those culturally competent, which is what we're working on right now with a group of African American mental health providers to actually be available when our families do want the help. And they have, during this pandemic, during these 2 years, reached out to us, and they are reaching out for help, and we're connecting them with some of these culturally competent mental health providers. So that's number one. I think that's really, really important, that you get someone that looks like you, that's talking your language, so you can get the help that you need. I think that the other thing is that we need to provide outlets for our young people. The social and emotional well-being, as Dr. Gandy talked about, we had to teach our kids how to come back to school to socialize because they had lost all of those skills for 2 years. Okay. They had not been socializing with their peers or with the administration, with us, or anything. We had to reteach all of those skills that we had been working hard for years to make sure that they had in their toolkit. Some of the things that we're doing here is, and then the other piece is what I see a lot of is our kids self-medicating, okay? Using other things to feel better and not getting the help that they need through mental health services or through drug and alcohol services and some of those kinds of things. And we think it's just in the adults, but it's growing in our young people pretty fast here. And we got to get a handle on that as well. And we have agencies that help us with that. We are working with Another Choice, Another Chance, that is a trauma-informed agency, as well as a drug and alcohol agency, that our kids are actually going and using those services. Here on Tuesday nights, we have healing circles here in our facility where young people can come and talk to other young people about some of the things they're going through. Because we got to do, as adults, sometimes we think it's just something that we need to do for our young people, but we got to do some out of the box kinds of things that they want us to do. Okay. Not what we think they should have. And these healing circles, we're hearing a lot of things from them. And then we know how to better serve them when we can hear this. I also have a staff person here by the name of Tim Poole. He does fishing clinics, hooked on fishing. And we do a Saturday healing by the water. Water is that soothing piece that our young people are connected to, and catching fish and all of those kinds of things. They really don't even realize that we're working with them on their mental health when they're out there fishing at Southside Park. Our youth pop-ups, where we're letting them decide what they want to see, and including them into the process. And they're the ones that's telling us that they want to do some peer-to-peer mental health therapy, some healing circles, and some things like that. So that's some of the things that we're doing here at our center to make sure youth are wraparound. And I will just say this, is that we can wrap around youth, but we also need to make sure that we wrap around parents. We cannot leave parents out of this equation. They have to, you know, oftentimes my husband oftentimes tells me, you cannot take all these kids to your house. You got to equip these parents with the tools to be successful so they can actually be independent of you. And so we cannot leave parents out of this equation. They have to be included just like the youth.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Miss Jackie. I really appreciate all your insight and really appreciate all the great work that the Rose Family Creative Development Center is doing. Team, if you can put up Mrs. Jackie's link, that would be really great. All of the services that Miss Jackie have shared, if you want to learn more about the great work that Rose Family Creative Empowerment Center is doing, you can check out their website at www.rfcecenter.com. Miss Jackie, thank you so much. I think one thing that you really hit on that's really powerful is making sure that we actually have relevant and culturally mental health and service providers. That's so critical, right? That if you don't have folks that really understand the struggles and the lived experiences of our African-American youth and families and seniors, it's really hard to reach out to them, right? And so that is absolutely critical in everything that we do. So just thank you so much. And even sharing programs like the healing circles and even hooked on fishing. Folks may not think that's a mental health thing, just a youth activity, but that has everything to do with the health and wellness of our young people. And so thank you so much, Miss Jackie. We just have time for one more question. I really do want to take this opportunity to thank all three of you. I know y'all are really busy, and the fact that you're making time to share your wisdom, to really hold space and talk about, you know, the importance of us celebrating Black History Month, but really focusing on the health and wellness of our community. I just want to say thank you so much. The last question I have for you, as people are watching and tuning in, is, you know, what are some things that we can do as individuals and collectively really to change the health disparities in the Black community, right? Let's say I'm someone who's watching who doesn't identify as African-American. What is one advice that you would have for me? Like, how can I get engaged? What can I do to help? And so that's the first one. And then what are some ways that I could be engaged in really celebrating, uplifting our African-American communities all year round, not just in February during Black History Month, right? But all year round. And so that's the last question that I have for all three of you. So I know it's a heavy one, so if we can pause really quick. What is one thing, right? If someone's watching this right now and they want to say, I want to help, I want to contribute, what can I do as an individual to really center, uplift our Black community, and especially even when it comes to health and wellness? And so don't be shy. You know, don't, you know, share what you think from the bottom of your heart, what you think that we should be doing as individuals and collectively. So with that, let me start with, I'll start with Mr. Brown. And then we'll do Dr. Gandy, and I'm going to close it with Ms. Jackie.
Well, my biggest thing is listening. We need to listen, to do a better job of not just being present, but really listen what people are saying, and especially our youth, and taking that information back. And for one of my biggest things is, as a leader, has always been trying to develop student voice, and student voice doesn't resonate. It takes a few, but they have to have the confidence to share how they feel and be able to advocate for themselves. If a student can advocate for themselves, they can have future success, no doubt. But right now, some of our kids doubt themselves. And so it takes a lot for us to listen, to figure out, and to listen and encourage. But I really do believe that aspect of it. Our kids don't lie. Our kids tell me all the time. And, you know, I had a kid tell me last week, "Is you're leaving, Mr. Brown?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Man, you're one of the realest teachers I know. You always listen to me. You take my word." I go, "That's all I can do." And, you know, and for me, and help them to advocate for themselves. And as parents, we need you. I need you. I need you. We need you at school. We need you to be there, not just on specific days, but school site councils, not just meetings, not just sporting events. I need to hear what's going on? What is your kid saying? It's leaders like me or administration and teachers that need to help make change and make our environment better. And I really do appreciate the aspect of being on this panel and talking about Black history. It's, it's a very, very important part of American history, and it's a great honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. I think that's a really great advice as individuals. What we can do is really, I think the first step is really not just showing when we show up, but we're really present and really being there and really listening to the stories of our young folks and all of our African-American families and hear what they need, right? Really holding space and listening. I think that is definitely the first step. So thank you so much for sharing that. Dr. Gandy, what is one thing that individuals or collectively we can do to change the health disparities in the Black community, or what are some meaningful ways that we can continue to center our communities all year long?
I would definitely say to research some of the community centers in your local area, because they're going to know the needs, those needs that are there where you are. So some people may feel, oh, I can't go help because I can't go that far across town, or oh, I can't help because I don't have the time to go that far and do this many things. But if you research what's in your local area, at least you can figure out where you can help. I hear a lot of people say that they want to help, but they don't know how. These organizations will definitely tell you how. They will let you know where they need volunteers. They'll let you know how they need you to get the word out. And then also, taking that risk and informing your friends and families and colleagues. A lot of people have friends that have resources. A lot of people have friends that have organizations. So reaching out to them to see, are they willing to help you help the Black communities? And I think just as it takes a village, it can take a larger village if we all get together, really. So if someone is not sure or unsure of how to help, research the local organizations, call and find out what help they need, reach out to your own personal networks and see if they're able to join, and, all hands on deck, see if they're willing to join you in helping with these efforts so that you can have more people, more hands on deck, more resources available. A lot of people have companies, a lot of people have internships, a lot of people have educational opportunities that unfortunately some of us may have been overlooked for. But if you have someone advocating and who can say, hey, I'm part of this great organization, I want to make a difference. Can you help me make a difference too? And I think when you have maybe a few more add on with you, whether they say yes or no, but really taking that step and just getting more people, you have a large group that are now continuing to advocate as well. So I think that's a good way to help get the word out and to be able to help make a difference. And if it's only you that shows up to help, that's someone else who can show up to help, who will be very appreciated by any of our organizations.
Thanks, Dr. Gandy. So you heard from Dr. Gandy. She says, look at all of the research the organizations that's serving our Black community and invest in them, volunteer, sign up, and support. Thank you so much, Dr. Gandy. Miss Jackie, you'll be the last person to answer this question before we close out. So I have an idea of how, I think I have one idea too, of multiple ideas. Donations, support with your money and your dollars, right? Your people power and your financial power. If you're watching this right now, also invest in Black organizations that are on the ground doing the work. So Miss Jackie, I'm gonna have you close this one out. But what is one thing that individuals and collectively we can do to make sure that we can begin to move the needles on health disparities in the Black community?
Well, everything that Mr. Brown and Dr. Gandy said is definitely important. I think that, of course, to make operations and organizations like ours run, we do need the funds available to make a lot of these programs happen. The big day of giving is getting ready to come up. We're part of that big day of giving. So that helps us to provide visual and performing arts programs to our young people and to do all of the other programs that our agency actually does. I would also say, as Dr. Gandy mentioned, is to supporting our organizations through a lot of things are done in bias through institutions. And so when we're out trying to go to the Board of Supervisors, go to the City Council, and we're talking about a lot of these Black causes, we need more than Black folks out there supporting those causes with us. Because these causes, because the community that I work in, I just don't particularly help just Black families. I felt help all families. And in South Sacramento, as you know, a lot of our families live in poverty. And so all those families need help. So if you're supporting a Black organization, you're not necessarily just supporting Black folks. You're actually supporting families who live in poverty, all families who need that support. And that's how I would end this, is by saying, support us with dollars and cents.
I was thinking that too, Ms. Jackie. I was like, what is one way? And I, as a councilwoman, doing everything I can to make sure we can bring dollars back into South Sacramento to our organizations who are on the front lines doing this work. And you're absolutely right. The advocacy part is absolutely important and critical. So what is one thing you can do is show up to your county supervisors, board meetings, right? Council meetings, county in particular, they have funding for all the social health services, y'all, right? But that doesn't get the city off the hook. We have our responsibility to make sure we invest in our families and our young people as well. And so that advocacy piece is absolutely important. And also the donation, contribution, and support, the financial piece is absolutely important. So thank you so much, Ms. Jackie. Well, I just want to say thank you on behalf of the whole entire team, from my heart. Thank you, Ms. Jackie, Mr. Brown, and Dr. Gandy, just for all your heart and hustle and the great work that y'all do in the community. As I often share, not one elected or one person can do things alone. It takes a team, it takes a village, it takes a community to really serve and to meet the moment for our families, because we know there are dire needs. So I just want to take this moment again to give all three of you a shout out. I'm so appreciative of just your heart and your hustle and your service to this community. And as we celebrate Black History Month, please do, you heard from our speakers of ways that you can celebrate, center, and uplift, not just in February, but every single day, and centering our most vulnerable communities. I do want to wish all of you a great, have an amazing month. We're about to go into March already. I think today's the last day of March, right? Yeah, it is. So again, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Just wanted to do a quick plug real quick. As you know, I am the councilwoman for District 8. If there's anything that y'all need, if you need to be connected to resources, critical information, such as our amazing organization that you see here, please do contact our office. If you need anything, you can call us at 916-808-7008 or email us at district8@cityofsacramento.org. I also hold weekly office hours as well, every Wednesdays from 4 to 5. If you want to just schedule a time to meet with me, please do. I am available. And if those hours do not work for you, that's okay. Please email our office as well, and we'll make sure to get you on my calendar. I always want to make sure that I'm accessible and to hear what's happening on the ground, so that I can do everything I can to meet the moment of this community. And then lastly, we're also on social media. So follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We have the same handle. It's at CMI Vang. So it's consistent. So you can find us on social media as well, as we provide updates. We also do our bi-weekly newsletter. We always share information about what's happening in the community. So please do follow us. And with that, I really just want to thank everyone for tuning in. And again, a shout out to all of you. And Mr. Brown hand is up, so I think he has something to say. So I'm going to hand the virtual mic over to Mr. Brown.
Hi, I just want to thank you for all the support you've given John Still, City Council, even when you were on the school board, even when you were working for Larry Carr. You've always been actively engaged in this community, and I really do appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Yes, go ahead, Dr. Gandy.
I was just going to say thank you for this platform, for giving us a voice to be able to get the word out and to really advocate and make a difference. So thank you for just being such a phenomenal leader. As you say, heart and hustle, thank you to you and your team for just really having the heart to hear our community and support this community and stand in this, and just giving us this opportunity. So I personally wanted to say thank you too.
I did all that.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I mean, thank you so much. But again, like I said, it's never the elected, y'all. It's always the team. And all of you are my eyes and ears on the ground. I follow you. I'm not leading. I follow all three of you, right? Y'all are the one that tells me what we need for our family. So just thank you so much for everything that y'all do. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Happy Black History Month. Stay tuned. We'll be back again next month with our monthly live chat. Thank you, everyone. Have a great week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.